Welcome everyone. We're just going to give a couple minutes to give time for folks to get signed in. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our final event of the Leaders of the Pack Speaker Series. My name is Anna Valegia, and I'm the Director of Career Services for the NC State Alumni Association. We are so excited to have an excellent lineup of speakers and are thankful that each of you have decided to spend the next hour with us. I have just a few housekeeping items to cover before we get started. So everyone is on mute and your video functionality has been turned off. The session is being recorded and will be made available by email to all registrants by the end of the day tomorrow. So if you have any questions at all, please submit them through the Q&A feature. We also had several questions submitted through the registration form, so we will try to answer as many as possible. So I want to quickly go over the layout of the event. So we have asked each distinguished alumni speaker to answer the following 3 questions. So question 1, how did you enter the workforce and migrate to where you are now? So we will hear from each speaker individually for this question. Question number 2, what 3 factors have led to your success? And question number 3, what advice would you give your 20-something self? Or rephrased, what advice would you give yourself when first starting your career, knowing what you know now? So questions number 2 and 3 will be answered as a panel discussion, and then we will open it up to further questions. So again, just make sure to use that Q&A feature. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our distinguished alumni speakers. So I'm actually going to let each of them introduce themselves as they answer the first question of the day. So we're going to get started with Fallon Brewington. So she actually graduated from the Poole College Management in 2002 and will be getting her doctorate in 2021. So congrats on that, Fallon. So I'm going to ask her to take it away. So let me just get her video started. All right. So again, the first question is, how did you enter the workforce and migrate to where you are now? All right.
All right. Thank you, Anna. So, again, my name is Fallon Brewington, and I am the CEO of Boys and Girls Club of the St. Hills. And it truly has been a journey to get to where I am. And so I did ask Anna to put together or show this slide for you all that will kind of give you a backdrop of how I landed where I am today. I graduated from high school. I actually went to the School of Science and Math, and I graduated from School of Science and Math in 1999. And I have to say that experience and that opportunity for me opened a lot of doors, because I came from a small rural town here in North Carolina, and that meant that there was not a lot of opportunity, not a lot of resources, and things like that. Big football was our biggest thing. And so if you were playing sports or if you weren't playing football, people weren't really too concerned with what else you had going on. So of course I was a smart kid and just didn't really fit well in some areas. So science and math was a great home for me and gave me a lot of opportunity. One of the great things about science and math, of course, is once you're there, that also opens other doors for you as far as schools are concerned. My dad was a staunch Carolina fan, but they did not have the program that I wanted. And when I saw NC State and what they had to offer, NC State was my choice. Unfortunately, my dad passed away my senior year in high school at science and math, so he did not get to see me graduate, but he did get to hear that I was accepted into NC State before he passed away with early decision. So that kind of was what changed my life and what got me started down my path, because my father was a strong supporter of me. My father was a pastor. He worked in a mill. He was a supervisor for many years. And I watched my dad go back to school and get his associate's degree. And he was actually working on his bachelor's degree when he passed away. So for many families of color, one of the things that you are told is that you will go to school, you will get a 4-year degree, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So that was what was told to me. And again, watching him go through that and persevere, even though going through cancer and eventually passing away, that was kind of my catalyst for my journey. So when I got into state and I started there, I was fortunate enough that the support system at state was so good that they made sure that persons of color had a community of support. And one of our advisors had a group of us that she recommended that we work for State Employees Credit Union. And I started with State Employees Credit Union in 2000 with a part-time internship with them. And that's kind of what started my career. So while I'm still at state, I started working for State Employees Credit Union, and I continued to work there until I graduated from state in 2002. And that's when I also started working full-time for State Employees Credit Union. So I remained there for many years. And while I was there, I decided it was time for me to go back to school. So I went and got my master's at East Carolina University. And I really felt the draw and the pull to be in education when I went to get that degree. So I really wanted to be in education. I knew it, and State Employees Credit Union didn't really have that window for me. So I kind of waited it out. And upon graduation, I was able to land a job with Fayetteville State University. Now, wasn't actually teaching or education in that sense, but it was business management and business consulting and helping businesses. So it worked really well for me and was a good fit with my degree from state. But I was also able to incorporate some of the things I learned from East Carolina as well. From there, I went to communities and schools as an executive director of a local affiliate in Richmond County. And that's kind of what jump-started me into youth development. So I've always been involved in nonprofits in my workforce career line, but the introduction to youth development and working with youth, my introduction to that was with communities and schools. And so from there, I have been with youth development ever since. So I was there for a few years, and I went to communities and schools in North Carolina and Raleigh, and I worked there for several years and kind of worked my way up. And I've been here ever since. So like I said, I stayed there, and I went and got my certified professional in talent development. And I think once I got that, I felt really confident that I could really do this education thing. So I decided to make that leap and start working on my doctorate in 2018. And consequently, that same year, I was able to become CEO of Boys and Girls Club of the Sandhills, and where I am now. And again, I will be graduating in May of 2021 as soon as I get this dissertation finished. So that has kind of been my journey, but I wanted to do this timeline because, and I strategically did this timeline this way because I wanted you all to see that education has been the main catalyst of everything that's happened in my career. So that's why my education bubbles are much larger than these other bubbles, because I feel like every opportunity that I had and everywhere I went, it all hinged on my education. So had I not done those things and not placed such a huge focus on that, I don't think I would be where I am today. So no, it didn't start and end where I wanted it, but through my education, I was able to work through and get to the career that I love and enjoy. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Fallon. And I love the big circles with the little ones. I think it's a good reminder of how important education really is. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us. So we're going to turn it over to Dev Creek. So I'm going to give him control over the computer. So Dev, you should be able to take over, and we're excited to hear from you.
Okay, hopefully you're able to see this. Thanks again for the opportunity to be here and speak. I am a pass out of the Poole School of Management in '95. I'll just give a quick background before I go into my career progression. I started my journey at State in chemical engineering. I did finish my chemical engineering degree. In my second year, I decided to do a minor in economics, and then my love for economics continued. And thanks to Dr. Douglas Fisher, I was able to continue and do the dual major in chemical engineering and economics. So it's been a good ride since then. My first job was in Silicon Valley. I decided to go down the engineering route and take a job in a semiconductor manufacturing company called VLSI Technology. They made chips, which is the foundation of all electronics today, and been there for several years. But it turned out that I realized that I was a pretty good engineer, but not the best engineer. And there was always, when I was doing economics, it was clear that I did want to go ahead and do my MBA. So I did want to continue my passion for management. And I did decide to go to business school. There was some learning. So the way the slides work is the career progression on top, some of the highlights and the learnings. I won't have time to go through all of them. I'll touch upon some of them. So then I ended up going to Northwestern, and they still have a dual degree program, which is a master's in engineering management and an MBA combined. Post that, I ended up doing a job with a strategy consulting firm called PRTM, which is now merged with PricewaterhouseCoopers. The main objective was to broaden my horizon, work with some of the smartest people and top and future business leaders. I did work in technology. Most of the clients weren't in tech. And I did have a chance to go around the world and have some global entities as well. The experience was pretty broad. At this stage, I was looking to broaden my exposure to different parts of the business, whether it was strategy, business planning, supply chain, etc., and see how large companies operate and scale up. Post that, I decided to take on a leadership role at a company called Virgin Mobile, which is part of Richard Branson's group. It's a very interesting opportunity. I was there before the launch of the business. So I saw the over the five and a half year time period. I did see the full journey of the business from pre-revenue to launch to scale up to IPO. And I was lucky enough to be there at the opening bell at NYC when we launched our stock ticker. I did have the opportunity to also be part of various departments within the organization. I was the youngest vice president at 32 and managing a decent size budget, and had the ability to set up the entire supply chain, demand and supply chain in North America for Virgin Mobile. So post a successful IPO, I was looking for a next challenge, and I was fortunate enough to have Virgin Mobile give me an opportunity to set their business in India. I failed to mention that I grew up in India and came in to State as an international student. So it was an opportunity for me to get back. I'd never worked in India. So I came into India as an employee number 2. It was a joint venture with an Indian telecom operator and Virgin Mobile. And I was the chief product officer looking at all product services, partnership, and we were able to successfully scale up the business. And the interesting thing here is that I thought I knew a lot about technology, but I had to do some unlearning and figure out how a business operated in India, and more importantly, in emerging markets, there are certain nuances which when you're developing products in Silicon Valley or in developed markets, the parameters are a little bit different. Here, the value for money parameter was significantly over-indexed, and I had to kind of learn how that was done. Moving on, post this successful launch, it was time to show the world that innovation can happen anywhere. Obviously, I'd worked in the Valley. From there on, I'd taken a role at a company called Reliance Jio, India's largest greenfield 4G telecom operator, and now it is the world's largest. Quite frankly, I spent some time working directly with the CEO and who reported the chairman, Mr. Mukesh Ambani. He is now on Forbes, billionaire list number 5. So very ambitious plans. And the company spent about $40 billion in capex, which goes a long way in India. And there was an ambitious plan to have 100 million customers in 100 days, which has never ever been done anywhere in the world. My job was product management, as well as I was a regional CEO in a part of India, which is about North and South Carolina put together, but about maybe 5 times the population. And the key learnings, I'll continue on the next slide here, but is getting to from 0 to quite a few number of zeros at an explosive pace, and also come up with first to the world invention and deployment at scale. So just to give folks a perspective of what that means, left to right, we go from what the state of affairs was in 2016 in the telecom industry in India, then launch plus 1 year, and then what it is today. Initially, obviously, there were no customers, but in 1 year, Jio was able to get 160, and today 400 million. Just to give you a size, that is all of Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile put together, even after the Sprint merger in the US. So that is the size of, it's bigger than that in terms of number of customers. The other important thing from a product standpoint is the data usage was just a quarter of a GB per month in 2016 to jumping up to about 10 GB a month, and today at about 13 GB a month. And if you see the cost of data, that graph is going exactly the opposite way. It was by far the fastest scale up of any telecom product in the history. The data usage has gone up 40 times. And in the middle of the lockdown this year, $20 billion of investment came in from all the big names in the US, Facebook, Qualcomm, Google, Intel, and quite a few of the PE firms. So that talks about the success. I left a couple of years before to take on a role as CEO of a company called Brightstar, which is a fully owned subsidiary of SoftBank, a global private equity firm. And so I was running a $700 million business out of Delhi in India, and was in charge of doing a turnaround of the business. So that's my journey. After that, I've taken on leadership roles in a company in artificial intelligence, and I'm on the board of 3 other companies in the technology and technology space. So thank you for the opportunity. On to you, Anna.
Thank you so much, Steph. That was fascinating, and I really appreciate you kind of giving us some perspective of what some of the accomplishments you had. They were amazing. So thank you so much for sharing. So we are going to move on and hear from Leanne Nance.
Hi, good afternoon.
Get away.
Thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to say that when I arrived at NC State in 1979, I had no idea how NC State would change my life. Like many at North Carolina State, I was a first-generation college student from Smithfield, North Carolina, a small town. All 4 of us, the children in my family, ended up going to State at some point for a degree, one degree or another. I met my husband at NC State, and we recently celebrated 33 years of marriage. And together we've raised 2 fine men, one of whom graduated from NC State and practices as an economist today. I can't talk about my career journey without mentioning my advisor at NC State. Macroeconomist Dr. Jc Poindexter was my advisor for all 6 years at State. He played a pivotal role and significant role in my career, recognizing my aptitude for economics and giving me the confidence I needed to understand how to apply my love for economics to a career. So in 1985, The Career Planning and Placement Center at North Carolina State helped me get my first job. And in the same month I received my master's degree, I went to work for Citicorp, now known as Citigroup. I was a quality analyst in their financial software division. I was hired on a Thursday, and the next Monday I boarded a plane alone, headed to Boston for the second flight of my whole life. Little did I know that this would be the first of 100 times 3 flights that would occur in the next 5 years of my life. My job with Citicorp would take me all over the country. And once I got to Citicorp, I was fortunate to meet a woman named Melody, who became my mentor. There weren't many women in the Fortune 100 financial world in the mid-'80s. And as a matter of fact, there weren't that many women at NC State. When I went to NC State, the female population was 30% or less. Melody played a huge part in helping me to develop by having very courageous conversations with me about my strengths and also areas in which I could improve. I cannot stress enough the importance of finding a mentor and being a mentor to other people. Citigroup sent me to school to learn COBOL, Fortran, Assembler, languages of the time. And I wrote software manuals for their software. And I also did a lot of work with clients, traveling all over to help our clients install our new software and also solve problems. Because I seem to love the client-facing role, Citicorp recognized that, and they put me in a position that involved marketing, communications, as well as economics. And that is where I really found my love for combining the framework of thinking like an economist with my love for really presenting ideas and sharing ideas and gaining consensus and feedback. Citigroup decided that they wanted to relocate to Florida from Raleigh. Raleigh was not the thriving place in the mid-'80s that it is today. And after much contemplation, I decided not to go with them on that journey. So I then got a job with a Fortune 200 radiation chemistry company based in Silicon Valley. This is a job as the marketing and communications director for their technology division, a job for which I was completely unqualified. I really was. And they took a chance on me and I took a chance on them, and it made all the difference. Because my company was in Silicon Valley and we worked all over the United States, I traveled a lot again, and I loved it. And this would be the last job that I would apply for. And this is a really important point. All the amazing jobs after this job came from my network. And I cannot stress enough how important it is to invest in building a network and being a good member of a network by supporting the people in your network. That is how I got the rest of my jobs. After 5 years at Raychem, that was the name of my company, I made a huge career change. I had a 4-year-old and a newborn. My husband had a job where he was in nighttime meetings quite a bit, and it just was not working for us. So I decided to start my own consulting firm and work from home. Now, in this environment, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but in 1995, it was quite revolutionary to think that a person could work at home. And it worked for me. I tried it. My network brought me work, and they brought me additional clients, which replicated itself in happy clients bringing other clients. I wrote software manuals. I did software training. I wrote press releases. I wrote speeches. I built websites. I did whatever I needed to do to really just make things work for my career and my family at the same time. I worked an average of 40 hours a week, but it was very flexible. And I did this from 1995 to 2001. And the decision to do this really helped me keep my career viable while also my parenting in a way that we really felt comfortable with. In 2001, I missed being a part of an organization. Consultants are very project-based, and I wanted to be back in a situation where I was involved in a company's mission. So I went to work as an economic developer. And little did I know that I would be an economic developer for 17 years, that I would find just this perfect combination of using my knowledge and love for economics and combining that with marketing. In this job, I was a county economic developer for 8 years, and then I went up to the Research Triangle and served as the COO of their economic development organization for another 9. In this job, I traveled the world, Israel, China, all over Europe, and just really fulfilled my need for adventure and learning through all of this travel and working with companies who wanted to come and locate in North Carolina. I was able to create jobs and tax base for a state I love, and also work with amazing companies and enjoyed getting to know through. Usually it takes about a year to locate a company, so it was a long journey of getting to know people and learning together. After about 17 years as an economic developer, I made yet another pivot. And 4 years ago, I went to work for Stewart, which is an engineering planning and design firm located in the Carolinas. I started as their CSO, and now I'm their COO. And it has been a stretch, but it has been a wonderful stretch and a wonderful change in my life. And I guess with that, I'd like to say that my journey has taught me that if you're fortunate, there's going to be many adventures within your career, and your career journey will not be a straight line. And I want to encourage you to take the exit ramp on your career journey and see what's there. Accept the challenge and be open to changing. Take the risk and take the job before you think you're ready, and advocate for yourself that you are ready. And trust yourself to pivot. That's what makes a rich and amazing career journey. I also want to encourage you to take every opportunity to learn, and learn and then unlearn what you think is true. Have conversations with people who don't share your way of thinking, and learn and grow from that. Also, one thing I've been able to do is really work in areas that fed my soul. My brain and my soul. And in order to do that, you have to work in cultures that align with what your values are. And I just really want to encourage you to hold yourself to that standard, to do great work in a culture that really, really feeds your soul and your mind. I really can't say enough about how much NC State has meant to me. I know without a shadow of a doubt that I wouldn't be the person I am today had NC State not prepared me for my journey and sent me on my way. So I'll always be grateful, and I'll also always say, go Wolfpack.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We love hearing all those connections that your family has to NC State. And I really enjoyed hearing about the building, maintaining, and what your network can do for you. So I definitely want to touch on that here in a little bit. So thank you so much, Leanne. So last but certainly not least, we have Phil Vidal. So I'm going to go ahead and get his camera up. All right, Phil, take it away.
Hey, thank you. Good afternoon. You know, I was thinking about how I entered the workforce this week when I wanted to think about what to say. And it was really a long journey. It actually started at NC State. I had actually graduated high school in '88, but I didn't graduate NC State until 1996. And I was paying for a lot of my costs around college, and I was running out of money, and I stumbled across cooperative education at NC State. And so this is a great idea. I could be a student and earning money, and I can still go to the football games and the basketball games. So I actually, the first job was for a company called Burroughs Wellcome, which is now GlaxoSmithKline out in Research Triangle Park. I got that job through cooperative education. So I'm still a student, and I mean, they're paying a decent amount for, you know, what I needed at the time. It was a great experience. It was kind of first hands-on experience, sitting in a cubicle, working with executives and understanding kind of how the business world worked. And the good thing about cooperative education is you also can then move on to a second one. So I did that first part of my job requirement for cooperative education. And then I went and worked for GTE Cellular One, again, while I was still a student. And that was great. Think about Cellular One. We saw what Dev was talking about. Think about Cellular One in the mid 90s. It was a bag phone that you plugged into your lighter in your car. So I worked for GTE Cellular One in Morrisville, North Carolina. And a lot of that job experience was very interesting because it was looking at statistics and it was looking at why people were leaving for a different carrier and doing some interesting reviews of what might be the reasons that we could do to keep them. And so all this occurred while I was still a student. And it was very helpful in a sense of becoming and learning about the business world, as well as earning some money so I could finish up my college degree. And I had a goal at NC State that when I get out of college, I'm leaving Raleigh and I'm going to be a stockbroker. So I left and went up and interviewed for my last spring break, my senior year spring break. I spent it in New York City interviewing. Ended up getting a job with Prudential Securities. And as soon as I left NC State, I moved to New York City and I was working for Prudential Securities. And the one thing I learned right away is I absolutely hated cold calling. So it really wasn't the direction I wanted to go, but that's what we did from 8 in the morning till 8 at night. And I had a script, and it was funny as I look back on it. We would say the Dow is going to go to 7,000. If you think about where the Dow is today, it's hilarious. At the time it was around 5,500, so that was a huge move to go to 7,000. And I realized, like I said, that wasn't. I didn't really like the cold calling. I actually wanted to spend more time getting my Series 7 and studying for those exams to become a financial advisor. And if you think about the Wall Street in the mid 90s, that's kind of something that really, you could see some movies about it. It wasn't the best atmosphere for me at the time. And it's funny, it ended up being, as Leanne and others have said, that the network, it was another NC State graduate that was in the insurance and reinsurance industry that reached out to me and said, hey, we're looking for people who can have kind of presenting skills as well as some of the statistics. So I got a bachelor's of science in business management, took a lot of economic statistics classes. And so we combined it together. And of course, I said to myself, I've never heard of reinsurance. What exactly is reinsurance? I've never heard of this company called Aon. This company had 40,000 employees globally. And this was long before they started sponsoring Man U's soccer jerseys. So nobody heard of Aon at the time. And so again, through the network, through an NC State alumni, she hired me and I started working in the reinsurance and insurance industry. And one of the key takeaways as I think about that, right, is I really didn't think about insurance when I was at NC State. But it doesn't have to be the first career that you start off in when you come out of college that you ultimately have to be in. And so as I started working at Aon in the insurance and reinsurance world, that took me all over the world. I remember one of the big issues at the time in 1996 is earlier in 94, there was an earthquake in Northridge, and in 92, there was a Hurricane Andrew, and the industry was reeling from very large catastrophic events, and they had no idea how to manage that risk. And the industry had just created these statistical models to analyze risk and to help them determine the size of potential loss. And then Aon, being a reinsurance broker, we would go out and place the reinsurance through London, through Bermuda, all over the world. And it was really an exciting career step. and nothing that I ever had imagined. And that job then took me to, of course, hey, we want to start an office in Dallas, Texas. And you're the young guy, why don't you go down and start the office? So me and another person went down to Dallas, Texas, started an office for them. I was hiring a lot of individuals right out of universities, training them up on how to run these statistical models, how to actually present. And then that job, of course, took me to another job. So this is kind of that networking part. Companies that I used to consult with and tell them how much reinsurance they should buy. One of those gentlemen asked me to move to Richmond, Virginia, and to start an insurance company. So me and 4 other people started up an insurance company in 2006, and we wrote our first policy in 2007 and grew that company to 500 million of premium and sold it in 2013. And that was another new thing, another exciting thing, to start something, hire a ton of people, grow it, sell it, and then what then, right? So I left that organization after the acquisition, didn't know what I was going to do next. And I got a call from a Lloyd's of London company, a company called Catlin. They were the largest Lloyd's syndicate, and they were looking for a US COO in Atlanta. So I moved from Richmond to Atlanta and helped that organization grow. And of course, we sold that company as well. And from that point, the next company was again a insurance reinsurance company. So I'd moved from the broker world to the insurance side. I moved from city to city, and then finally I've now ended up actually starting at a company right in the middle of the pandemic, a company called McLaren's, which first I thought, is this the car manufacturer? But it actually is a claims adjusting firm. It's headquartered here in Atlanta, but a global company. So as I think about all of that journey, some of the key lessons that I look back on is that it's okay that the very first, industry you go into out of college isn't the final industry you end up with. You can obviously move around and get out of your comfort zone, move cities or move industries. It's okay. Do it, take those chances. It really helps. And bet on yourself, push your edges of your comfort zone. I had no idea what reinsurance was. And then when I left the reinsurance broking world to go into the insurance side, I wasn't as in tune exactly how that side of the business worked. But you take those chances and you learn and you grow. And then obviously one of, I think, the most important things is that foundational education at NC State, and then pushing the envelopes, taking chances, entering new industries, moving cities if you need to, just really push the envelope is what I would ask. And thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Phil. I think that was some really great advice, and I'd love to hear you go on as we move to question number 2 and 3. So we're just going to ask all of our speakers to join us again, and then we'll start with our other questions. Okay, so everyone should be joining us soon. All right, perfect. We're all here together. Welcome. Okay, so we're going to move on to question number 2, which is, what 3 factors led to your success? So I know, Phil, you were talking about some key takeaways. So if you would just kind of encapsulate that into the 3 factors that led to your success.
One of the things that that I actually had to learn this lesson the hard way, because I had a very long journey from high school through getting my degree, is I realized that when I thought I was working hard, I really wasn't working very hard. And it becomes that relentless work ethic. I actually maybe have taken it too far sometimes, where I decided I was going to be the last person to leave the office every night. If there was still one person in that office, and I'm there till 8 or 9 o'clock, right? That relentless work ethic. And then I would say inquisitive problem solving. One of the things that I remember this quote when I had started at Aon where Einstein had been asked, if you had an hour to solve a problem, what would you do? And he said, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and 5 minutes thinking about solutions, right? Because if you just say, oh, I hear what you're saying, this is how you solve it. No, it's be very inquisitive. Ask a lot of whys, what's going on, hows. Don't just jump right to a solution. Be very inquisitive about problem solving. And then I think most importantly is really bet on yourself. Take chances. It will pay off.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think those are definitely 3 things for us to keep in mind. So thank you. Leanne, what about you?
The 3 lessons that I want to share are number 1, to treat everyone with respect and to expect that to be reciprocated. Setting a foundation of respect is the platform for good business. It's the platform for growth. It's the platform for innovation. The second is don't focus on getting the credit. Credit takes care of itself. Good hard work, good character, it gets noticed. You don't have to focus on that. It will get noticed. And the third is let your character be your legacy. My mentor, who I never had the privilege of meeting, is Maya Angelou. And she said, people will not necessarily remember what you did. They may not remember what you said every day, but they will always remember how you made them feel. So let character be your legacy.
That is one of my favorite quotes. So I'm glad that you shared that with us today, Leanne. Thank you. All right, Deb, what about you? The 3 factors that led to your success.
Yeah, I think I'll start with the first one, which I feel very strongly about, especially as we live in a world where complexity is increasing, and it will continue to increase without any doubt, is getting clarity. I think clarity is power. So that is what I believe in. It's clarity and simplicity is power in complex worlds. So just like Phil was talking about the solving of the Einstein's view of that, it's like how you come up with the solution in the end and how simple and elegant it is way more important than the analytical rigor that one can apply to it. So, I think the one thing which I did not learn in school, where people did talk a lot of things, and I agree with them, is being an engineer and being good in math. The analysis part and the left brain thinking was very strong. But I think the equation that I've learned over the years it's what I call synthesis. Is like putting the different, you can analyze the stuff, but putting it together is equally important. So that is the first thing. And I think it's making the complicated simple is not a straightforward thing. No AI algorithm is going to solve it that elegantly in the future either. So that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is be original and find your purpose. So, we have just discussed in the last 45 odd minutes on how people have kind of found their way. And I've seen a lot of the younger students coming out of college is like they want to try to be this person or that person. I think just be yourself. I think that is more important, and believe in yourself. I did, give my personal example of, I was doing 2 different majors, chemical engineering and economics, where, the union of that is very slim, but I decided to do that. Even in graduate school, I decided to do a master's in technology management and MBA. Again, a slim thing, but over a period of time, the niche that I've been able to develop is that technology is not foreign to me. I can dive in any kind of technology and go straight to it and keep the commercial hat on. So I think that oscillation, I didn't know that when I started doing engineering, but it's something that, I picked up and I believed and bet on myself. And that is how I think I'm original in this situation. The third thing is, somebody touched upon it, is to take risks. I think it's highly overused, but my friend Philip can talk about something called a risk premium very well. So I think apply the risk premium philosophy to your own life as opposed to in the financial or insurance setting. So I believe in that, and I've applied it. I moved from here to the US and then to Silicon Valley, and then back, and worked in many countries around the world. And every 2 years, earlier in my career, I was very clear that I'm not going to do the same job. If I was doing finance, the next 2 years I was doing operations, then I was doing marketing or product management or whatever the case may be, because I was clear that my original thinking was I want to be a solid general manager, and you can't be a general manager and lead a team if you can't understand what challenges they are facing. So that was the constant risk taking that I did, instead of saying that I'm going to be the best in this one small micro dimension. As like, okay, let me be good in many different things. Again, that is my philosophy. People can agree or disagree, but yeah. So that's it. These are the 3 things that have led to my success thus far.
Yeah, great insight, great advice. And I'm seeing a theme of taking risk and believing in yourself. So I like hearing that. So, all right, Fallon, what about you? The 3 factors that led to your success.
So mine, I guess, is a little different than everybody else. It kind of ties, so it's maybe a little different, but it took me forever to figure out what my 3 were going to be. I knew one right off the bat, but the other 2 weren't so apparent. But what's funny is Boys and Girls Club of America has a leadership conference this week, and the theme of their conference are 3 factors that I think fit: response, recovery, and resilience. And I say response because it is all about how you respond to challenges, how you respond to everything, how you respond to every day. And I think that is critical and crucial. I mean, I could have, responded differently to the demands that my father placed on us as far as getting education, but I didn't. And I stepped up and I made sure I did that, and I'm still doing it today. Recovery, again, when things happen and things hit you, it's about how you recover and making sure that you stay focused on the fact that you will recover, that you can recover, and you stick to that. And that is with education, that is with career, and all of that. Because just like everybody else has said, it's not going to be a straight line trajectory to where you want to end up or where you want to be. But you have to be willing to take some risks, fail, but you got to know that you got to recover. And then finally, resilience is the last one. Now, that was the one that was going to be me regardless, because you have to be resilient. You have to know that when everything is stacked against you, that it's only you that can get you out of that. And that has kind of been my saving grace and what I live by. I mean, I feel like all the time things are being hit left and right with me, but I got to get through that. And I have to do it not only for myself, but I have to do it for my family. I have to do it for all the kids that we serve at the club. They have to be able to see a positive role model, have to see someone, especially for my kids, that look like them, that are successful in business or in the community as well.
I love that. And I'm a fan of alliteration. So I think those will really stick. I appreciate that. Okay, so we do have our last and final question. We may not have time for questions at the end. We'll see where we are with time, but want to make sure we at least get to question number 3. So I phrased it in 2 different ways in case one way resonates with you a little bit more. So the first is, what advice would you give your 20-something self? Or what advice would you give yourself when you were first starting your career, knowing what you know now? So Fallon, I'm going to turn it back to you since you're on a roll, and then we'll kind of work our way around.
Okay, I think I can answer both really quickly. Advice I would give to my 20-something self: enjoy those undergraduate years of state, because I feel like I rushed through them and I didn't get to fully enjoy the college experience I should have. I'm trying to do as much as I can of that through a doctoral program, which is much different, but I really wish I would have slowed down and enjoyed the college life. The other question I would say, find your passion and everything else will follow. So education, technology is my thing. And no matter what job I've been in, I've been able to carve that niche and excel in it. So it's not about finding the right job. It's about finding what you are good at and what you're passionate about and making that work for you no matter what career you're in.
I love that. Finding your passion. And also to what a lot of you have touched on too, is that it's not necessarily a straight line, right? There might be some different paths you can take. So I love that. All right, Dev, what about you?
Sure. I think it looks like we're going in 3, so I think I have 3 points here. I think the question that I even ask in my interviews for young graduates, and which I wish I'd asked myself early on, is what are the bullet points that you will have on your resume of life? So it's a powerful question, but let me kind of elaborate on it. So when one is like 65, 70, whatever, retired, and you had 2 pages to put your life story, what would those bullet points look like? And the kind of bringing it from the future back to today's reality, what I would urge, the younger alums on the call or students, is that commit yourself to lifelong excellence, so that you would have to fight to put those bullets in, that you would have so many choices, so you would not know what's going to go on that resume of life. So I think that would be the first kind of question that I would have asked myself, or I would tell my younger self, if I had a chance. The second thing is something which I strongly believe in, is getting in the lifetime learning mindset, and just not getting it in, but master it. Getting it in is one part of it, but mastering it is the other thing. Fortunately or unfortunately, I've worked in all of the industries which move super fast. You miss a quarter of technology and your history. We can catch up with experience, but I think you have to be quickly learning what is next. So that is something I picked up naturally, but I've seen people feel that they are comfortable in one domain, and that's all right. But the next set of innovations are happening in interdisciplinary domains. So, and it's happening at an exponential rate, much faster than it happened in the last 20 years. So I think the ability to learn and marry the present with the past and your foundation that you know very well, I think that's a skill which is going to be super important as we look at the next 20 odd years. The third thing is more on the leadership side, is that I've had the good fortune of leading large teams and hundreds of people, thousands sometimes. I wish folks had told me that spend a little bit of time in the study of human psychology. So I think and will develop the softer skills a lot earlier in my life. College does give you a balance and an opportunity to do that, but one is so sometimes focused on the classroom stuff that this is a little bit missed out. That in the end is, in my mind, motivating people, and having energy around them is way more important than any academic degree, quite frankly. So I think, and having both is the best. So let me be clear, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm just saying both are needed. A union B is much greater than A and B. So that is the point here. That the softer skills, and it doesn't mean you don't have to be CEO to appreciate that. Even if you want to influence people, influence ways of being an economist or a physicist or whatever the case may, I think that's very important. And just to finally round that point out, I feel that leadership is an art, and everyone's got to find their own brand of leadership. So whatever that brand is, and that is honed in through softer skills, I think that is why people will follow you wherever you go. Yeah. So that would be the third thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, we are coming up on the hour. So Leanne, what about you?
I think I would tell my 20-year-old self that hard work pays off. There are very few shortcuts in life. When it comes to progressing well in your career, you have to work hard. I would tell myself that you're never too early in your career to have a voice, and that you should raise your voice, and you should raise it in a way, not just for yourself, but for others, that you can be heard. I would tell myself you're going to be uncomfortable. And when you get uncomfortable, embrace it. That's growth. That's taking opportunities that you may not quite be ready for, but you can do. So believe in yourself. I would also tell myself to believe when I come to the table that I have something of value. And if I believe that about myself, other people's opinions will follow.
Absolutely. I think that is wonderful advice. Thank you so much. All right, Phil, on to you.
I'll make it quick so we can have some questions. it's about just continuous learning. I think that right now in this day and age, you probably lose 20% of your skill sets a year. If you don't keep learning 5 years later, you could be obsolete. So just keep learning, keep asking questions. And like we all just said, really your questions are important. Your ability to interact and be part of the team is extremely important. Don't just sit back and sit there and just listen. Ask questions and keep learning.
Absolutely. And so we have just a couple minutes. I'm just going to ask one question to kind of build from that, because I know it's something that you mentioned and Deb and several. So what is a way that you can continuously learn? Because it's so important. As Deb mentioned, I don't know, it's just one industry. I think this world is just continuously changing as we go. So what is I guess if you had one tip for like the top way that you stay abreast of changes and learning of what's going on, what would that be? So Phil, if you don't mind telling us how you continuously learn.
I'm continuously reading and researching, and I try to make time to go to important conferences. Two very important lessons that I learned and applied in different ways in the insurance industry came from either conferences or reading about other industries, right? I particularly like to read about other financial industries, banking and others, because they're way ahead of the insurance world. So I can glean some of the things that they're doing and realize that we can bring that into the insurance world. But you have to read, you have to be part of organizations, you have to go to conferences and then find other industries and read what they're doing and learn how to apply that.
Absolutely. Fallon, I saw you shaking your head. So you want to go next?
I agree with Philip on the conferences. That is a great way to do that, but also don't underestimate what your peers bring you and how you can learn by having discussions and things with other people, experts in the field and as well. Of course, I'm in school now, so I feel like that's just my go-to. It's just to be enrolled somewhere. But also keep in mind, the certification that I did, you don't necessarily have to enroll in a degree program to do continuing education. You could do, certifications and things like that sometimes are just as valuable, if not more, than a degree.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, you're so close to being done with your doctorate. So best of luck with the rest of that. So Leanne, what about you?
Surround yourself with people who are different than you and have had experiences different from your own and learn from them. Also help them learn from your experiences. Listen to podcasts when you're exercising and in the car, or even when you're getting ready in the morning. And also start a leadership book club at work, which we have done.
Love that. Love that. Yeah, we have a club focused on professional development. So we'd love for any of you listening to join us. So thank you, Leanne. That is some great advice. All right, Deb, last but not least, what about you?
I would agree with what everyone said. The incremental thought that I would have is the learning and reading and networking and all, that's perfect. But I think in the end, what I like to do is, and I don't do enough of, is spend time. In the end, what is needed is developing intuition that, okay, when this happens, then the intuition is going to lead you there. So that takes time. It doesn't happen like that. Even Bill Gates goes out for a week, a year, and does his reading, but he contemplates on stuff. The contemplation part is equally important as the ingestion part of information, so that you can develop your intuition. So when you see an opportunity or when you see a situation, you are ready to apply it and make the 2 + 2 = 5. Yeah.
Love that. Thank you so much. All right. Well, we do want to be respectful of everyone's time. We are upon the hour. So thank you so much to each of our wonderful speakers. I know I learned a lot. I loved stories and advice today. So very insightful, wonderful information. And thank you all so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of the day. Go Pack.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.